Today on History's Tech, we are looking at the ever infamous Tiger tanks. And of course, while I'm talking about the Tiger tanks, I am going to be talking about both the Tiger I, also known as the Panzerkampfwagen 6, and the Tiger II, more known to the Allies as the King Tiger. Now, the Tiger tank is one of those tanks that some people absolutely love, some people absolutely hate. It is a rather interesting piece of tech. It is a very well thought of and designed tank. However, it is extremely complicated and limited by the equipment that serviced it at the time. But let's go ahead and look at this rather unique piece of technology and what it led to. Now, as we've talked about before, the Tiger is part of this evolution of what happened to the Panzer tank, starting with the Panzer I and II, the earliest developments that were basically reconnaissance and training tanks, moving into the 3s and 4s, which are supposed to be the main tanks of the German army, before the development of the KV-1 and the T-34 showed the Germans there was a need to change, which is why the Germans went ahead and deployed the Panther tank. Now, even with the Panther tank, the Germans realized the need for a better heavy tank, and that is where the Tiger comes in. Even with the Panther tank, the Germans realized after Operation Barbarossa that they could not compete with Soviet armor, so better armed, better armored tanks were necessary. So the Germans went ahead and ordered a series of prototype heavy tanks to compete. Now, before they reached that point, they actually had tried to develop heavy tanks before they developed the Tigers. They started with the Wagen in 1935. They actually developed some really unique ideas for a heavy tank. They changed it and developed the Wagen 2. As a result of that, trying to create an even heavier, better armored tank. Now, this prototype was actually dropped in favor of the larger, better armed VK-3001 and the VK-3601 designs. Now, again, these prototypes are going to be dropped. However, when the new prototype is developed after Operation Barbarossa, we get two designs. Finally, in 1941, we get the final request for a new prototype. Now, this is a 45-ton tank that incorporates that 88-millimeter gun. Now, two companies submit prototypes for this, Henschel and Porsche. Now, Henschel is the one that is going to be chosen, and it basically came down to one thing. The Porsche design utilized a petroleum electric transmission system, and because of this, it needed a lot of copper, and copper was a rare commodity during the war, so they could not be utilizing it on these tanks when they needed it for other things. So the Henschel design is the one that gets chosen. Now, interestingly enough, Porsche hedged all their bets that they were going to be chosen and went ahead and started producing 100 chassis of this tank. And rather than waste these Porsche-produced tanks, they were converted into a tank destroyer known as the Elephant. Now, with the Henschel design chosen, the Germans went ahead and rushed into production. They so badly wanted this tank to combat the KV-1 and the T-34, they went ahead and put this tank that was still in a prototype phase into production, which is a horrible idea because it's going to lead to massive reliability issues with the Tiger I. Now, some of the features had to be dropped in order to get the tank to production. The tank was too heavy to cross most bridges, so the idea was that they could just fjord a river with a snorkel system. This was removed. An external air filtration was removed, leading to breathing problems for the engine. They redesigned the cupola for the turret. Now, with a tank that was ready to go somewhat, they went ahead and put it into service by September of 1942, and they sent it to Leningrad. Now, mind you, this is a tank that doesn't traverse well in swamps, forests, things like that. It needs tracked roads because of how heavy and wide it is. And they send it to an area that is full of swamps and forested terrain. So it had to try and stick to roads and tracks. And so they use it as a defensive weapon rather than an offensive weapon. Now, because of how over-engineered these vehicles were, they had problems with their transmission. The drivers actually had to learn how to operate these tanks because it was very easy to overtax the engines, the transmissions, which caused them to break down frequently. Now, the next major deployment for the Tiger is going to come in the North African campaign, and this is where they're going to really show tank-to-tank warfare, and it's going to show that against tanks such as the M3 Lee, they are able to withstand their firepower and that their armor is superior. It wouldn't be until about a year later that the first British anti-tank weapons are going to start being able to take out the Tigers. And the Tiger from there continued to prove that in standard combat, it was a dominant force, like seen in Operation Citadel as part of the Battle of Kursk, where they were going up against enemy tanks such as M4 Shermans and things like that. They were dominant. However, they continue to fail due to reliability issues, and many Tigers are just going to be abandoned in the field because of this. Now, by the time the Tigers are pulled from the field, reliability does go up. However, the Allies have begun to develop ways of countering it, and it is no longer as effective against Allied tanks by about late 1943 to 1944. By this time, the British, Soviets, and the United States had all captured Tiger tanks and had studied them and found what they needed to build in order to take out the Tiger tank. Now, before I get to the Tiger II, I do want to talk about a few of the variants that were based on the Tiger I's chassis. Now, probably the most famous is going to be the Sturm Tiger, which was a self-propelled rocket launcher, interestingly enough. Another Porsche-produced variant, the Berg Tiger, which was an armored recovery vehicle. And, of course, the Elephant that I had addressed earlier as an anti-tank tank. And now, with all of those reliability issues that we talked about the Tiger I, it was kind of obvious that they were going to try and build an improved version of the Tiger, and this is what we call the Tiger II. Now, the Tiger II incorporated the heavy armor of the Tiger I with the sloped armor of the Panther, and a new long-barreled version of the 88mm cannon. Now, development of the Tiger II pretty much follows what we saw with the Tiger I. Both Henschel and Porsche were given the rights to produce a prototype. And the main difference is going to come down to the hull design, transmission, suspension, and automotive features. Once again, the Henschel version is going to be chosen over the Porsche design, mainly because the Porsche design is kind of radical. They moved the engine to the mid compartment so they could put a turret on the rear of the tank so that it would have two different turrets on it. And its transmission system would have gone with a electric drive system, basically utilizing a gas engine to power electric motors and transmission. Because it was so unconventional, the design was not utilized, and the Henschel with their more conventional system was chosen. Now, just like the Tiger I, production was rushed because the Germans needed the numbers. They ordered 1,500 Tiger IIs to be produced. Now, due to various Allied bombing raids, they're only going to end up producing just under 500. Now, the first deployment of the Tiger II tank is going to come with the Allied invasion of France, the Normandy invasion. And it is there that it is going to show its own problems. Several of them are going to be destroyed in the initial invasion. One of them is going to actually get trapped in a bomb crater and flip over and trap its crew. We're going to see problems with leaking seals and gaskets, overburdening the drivetrain, which is going to lead to more reliability issues with this tank. Now, the problems for the Tiger II are going to continue. When they are shifted to the Eastern Front to begin an invasion against the Soviet Union, they are taken on by ambush tactics utilizing the T-34. Then moving up against the IS-2 and the ISU-122, in conditions where those tanks were favorable, the Tigers continued to see losses against the Soviets. Their greatest success against the Soviets is really going to come in Operation Panzer VI, when the Germans are going to capture Budapest, the capital of Hungary, and keep it as part of their control until the end of the war. But the counter of that is the Ardennes offensive as part of the Battle of the Bulge, where they're going to lose 150 Tiger IIs, which is about 1/3 of their production Tigers at the time. Now, due to the huge cost of the Tiger II and the limited production run, there's really only one variant that was ever produced, the Jagd Tiger, which was a heavy tank destroyer based on the Tiger II with a lengthened chassis. Now, today there is one working Tiger I and one working Tiger II in the world, and only about 9 Tiger Is and 9 Tiger IIs in existence that you can visit in museums. But there you have it, a look at the Tiger I and Tiger II, a tank that really has this intimidating and incredible design. I remember facing it in video games thinking this thing is amazing, but as you dive into its history, you find out it is a problematic, over-engineered, produced with parts that were hard to make, couldn't traverse roads, swamps, or anything like that, rushed into production. It was just one problem after another, after another, after another in developing these tanks. And it is honestly a good thing for the Allies that the Germans wasted their time and effort on these tanks instead of pursuing tanks that actually could be better produced, easier produced, and actually put up more of a fight than the Tigers did. But that's it for today. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you on the next time.